Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 1235.
And don't be afraid to fail.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hey, this is Mark Green. Join me at the Classic Auto Show in Costa Mesa, California, this March 16th and 17th at the Orange County Fair and Events Center. I'll be the celebrity stage MC conducting live interviews with past Cars Yeah guests, including Adam Carolla, the Grand Marshal, Dave Kindig from Bitchin' Rides, Wayne Carini from Chasing Classic Cars, Mark Warman from Graveyard Cars, Mike Finnegan from Roadkill, Bogey from All Girls Garage, Big Mike, import tuner and builder, and Lynn St. James, an iconic race car driver. I hope I'll see you at the Classic Auto Show. For more information, go to theclassicautoshow.com. That's theclassicautoshow.com. Hello, automotive enthusiasts. I'm revved up and so excited to introduce today's very special guest, calling in from snowy, cold Seattle, Washington. It's very rare for us to get snow up here in the Pacific Northwest, at least down, not in the mountains. Jim Krouskop. Jim, are you buckled up and ready for a fun ride?
Absolutely, Mark. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you having me on your show. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. We'll have some fun. Jim Krouskop is a managing partner and founder of 360 Sonar, a boutique recruiting and talent search firm located in Seattle, Washington. He has over 20 years of technology management and recruiting experience, primarily for high-tech organizations across the United States. Jim is also the co-founder of Pedal Posse, a growing community of car enthusiasts who enjoy three-pedal driving and hanging out with like-minded car enthusiasts. He received a Bachelor of Arts degree and Master's degree in urban planning from UC San Diego and the University of Washington. Originally from Southern California, Jim is an avid car and Porsche enthusiast, an amateur photographer, aspiring writer, and a Scotch drinker. His Pedal Posse co-founder, Mauricio Bendana, was yesterday's guest here on Cars Yeah. So Jim, I've told our listeners just a little bit about you. Would you take a brief moment, share a little bit more about your business, about what you're doing there with Pedal Posse, and your passion for automobiles?
Thanks, Mark. I really appreciate that. So I'm a part-time headhunter and matchmaker for tech companies. I've been in tech for over 20 years now. And you alluded to my last name. It's a little bit unique. It's German. It's Krouskop is German for curly head, which is kind of ironic since I have zero curly hair whatsoever, and I'm Asian. So,
you're a unique guy for sure.
Yeah, very, very unique. So, and yeah, absolutely, 100% car enthusiast. I definitely enjoy driving cars and spending time with other enthusiasts.
Very cool. And I see you went to UC San Diego. My first 2 years of college were at UCSD. My wife graduated from there with an engineering degree. So, did you grow up down in San Diego? Because I mentioned you were a Southern California kid.
I did grow up in Orange County, behind the Orange Curtain, and as people like to call it. And I went to undergrad at UC San Diego. It was a wonderful school there.
I tell you, that place has grown incredibly. We took our son there when he was looking at colleges, and I looked at my wife and I said, "This isn't the same place you and I went to. It's become a city. It's massive. I can't even believe it. When I was there, it was not that big, but that was back in the late 70s. So times have changed."
Yeah, I was there from 87 to 90, and it was a 24-hour construction zone when I was there. And I occasionally go back to visit, and it's amazing how much has changed.
Yeah, and it's still growing. Every time I go down to San Diego, it's growing. So yeah, great school for sure. As we continue on your journey, I always like to start with a success quote or a mantra. This is some kind of saying that's been instrumental in forming your life and your success. It's a really nice way to get the inspirational tires turning here on Cars Yeah. So, Jim, take the wheel.
So, as I mentioned, I'm a matchmaker, and I work with a lot of professionals in my career. And if there's one thing that I always try to impart on my candidates and also friends and associates is don't be afraid to fail. There's an ode to failure. It's a famous commercial by Michael Jordan that you can look up. It's only about 30 seconds long, and he basically walks through all of his failures in his career, the number of times, dozens of times he's been asked to make the game-winning shot, or the number of times games he's lost or shots he's missed. And at the end of that commercial, I think what's really powerful is he says that basically, paraphrasing, is that I succeed because I fail. And I think that's just a really powerful takeaway. And another, sports analogy that from Wayne Gretzky is you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And I think that's something that I really try to encourage with my candidates and people that ask for career advice, because I see people that are unhappy in their careers or their jobs, but they don't do anything about it. And it's just unfortunate. So I try to encourage them, not to make rash decisions, but at the same time, don't be content with just the status quo.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that commercial from Michael Jordan, and it's also true. It's kind of like Babe Ruth. How many times did he swing and miss versus home runs? But nobody remembers the swings and the misses. They remember all the home runs. And what you're talking about here is a special place in my heart. It's part of why I started this podcast. And that is to inspire people that they can find a way to work in the field they're passionate about, obviously cars, or in your case, somewhat of a sidepreneur job with Pedal Posse, that you can get involved. And there's lots of ways to get involved. You don't need a lot of money, or if you want to spend money, you can and get involved. But it's a big part of being happy in life. I gave a talk this past weekend to Andy Collins. He has a racing seminar. He's a past guest here on Cars Yeah. Local guy who runs the Sovereign Vintage Race Series up there, and that you've probably attended along with me many, many years in a row. And I gave this talk, and one of the things was about just that so many of my guests here on Cars Yeah just decided I'm going to take a chance, either racing or journalism or photography or whatever it might be. And they took a chance to go into a field they're passionate about, and look where they are now. So awesome quote. Awesome thing to share right off the bat here. You're full of golden nuggets here, Jim. So let's keep it going. Would you share a story that instigated your personal passion for cars? Is there a pivotal moment in your life and you knew you were going to be a car guy?
I wouldn't say there was a pivotal moment, but I look back in my life, and I think a lot of folks can probably say there's a similar story where, my introduction to cars started with my father, who was an engineer. He loved Fords, and he loved buying Fords and working on his cars. And I recall going into the garage, spending time with him, just like a typical car commercial where, your father hands your little boy a little wrench so you can pretend to be turning something. And then he would, pile the entire family, my brother, my mom, and I, into our station wagon, and we would just drive on Sundays. And we didn't have a destination. And I just remember sitting in the back seat, staring out the window at the scenery. And I think that really has some fond memories for me. And, it lives in me to this day because I love driving. I love being on the road, whether it's in the backcountry twisties or just, bombing down the highway. There's something nostalgic about that I really love. And I think that's what got me started.
Oh, how cool. And you're a Porsche guy like me, right?
Yes, I'm definitely a Porsche enthusiast through and through. And I graduated from VWs to BMWs. I've owned many E36 M3s and E30s. And I still am a BMW fan. I drive one every day, but my wheel of choice is definitely a 911. So I've had 4 air-cooled Porsches, and I currently drive, much to the chagrin of my air-cooled friends, I currently drive a 2005 997 Carrera S.
Nice. Well, we share something else, Jim. I'm a big BMW fan. I've had 4 M3s. My current daily driver is an E46 M3. Although with the snow we have on the ground today, my car's not leaving the garage. It does not do very well in this snow. I'll take my wife's X5 with the snow tires on it, and I live on a steep hill. So, but that's cool. Well, both you and I share a passion there. Last week I was shooting a couple episodes of the Cars Yeah TV show, which is something new for me. And we were at the California Automobile Museum with Carly Starr, who is a past guest here. And they have a display of traveling cars kind of back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And they had an Oldsmobile Vista Cruiser, which is what my parents had in the 60s. And boy, like you just said, it brought back memories of my sister and I sitting in the back, looking out of the back of that car, driving across the country, stopping at all those Stuckey's stands to have lunch and buy some little souvenir of some kind.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. The car is definitely part of our history.
Mm-hmm. And I think, back then, this is in the, 70s, gas was expensive for a while, wasn't it? Because
there was that gas crisis for a while where you just almost couldn't get gas.
I know, exactly. But my dad, he insisted every Sunday, let's get in the car and just go out. And, he would use the phrase, let's get outside and blow the stink off of us. And, so so a lot of fond memories for sure.
Very cool. That's cool. Blow the stink off. Yeah. My mom used to say that. Go outside and blow the stink off yourself. So
yeah.
Very cool. Well, let's take a look at some of the roads you've driven down and talk about a big challenge or a big failure. And I like this question in this sense, not so much that I'm going to make you rekindle a time that might have been a little tough for you, but more importantly, and this goes back to that failure concept, is what did you learn from this situation so that you could go forward, I should say, and gain some momentum in your business, your life, or your career. So walk us through one of those times, would you?
Yeah. I think I can look back to something that actually happened just recently, this past year. I was involved in the first major car accident I've ever had in my life. And
oh, no.
It was an Uber driver ran a red light, and we ended up T-boning in the intersection. And I was in my daily driver. I was in my X1, which I have a new one now. But it was all the airbags deployed, and I physically, I hurt my back a little bit, but I'm 100% fine now. But I bring it up, Mark, because it challenged me physically just to recover from that. But also, for the first time in my life, I had a little bit of a mental challenge in regards to I went through a little bit of PTSD or depression. I don't know what. I think what triggered me was asking myself this rhetorical question of what if I was in my Porsche? Because at the time I had a 77 air-cooled Porsche with no airbags, no ABS. I mean, there's
okay. I didn't mean to chuckle at you, but I was thinking you didn't want to lose your Porsche versus your BMW.
No, that's not it. Because I just kept thinking, hey, if I was in my 911, would I still be alive? Right? Because those cars are what they are. They're very rare. Yeah. I mean, they're very sparse in regards to technology, and that's why we love driving them. But so, anyways, I think that really triggered a lot of life questions about mortality and so many other things. And ultimately, what I'm getting to, I think the takeaway for me was ever since that day, I wake up every day with gratitude. And I think it's something that to me is key in how I approach my life, my job, my relationships, because you just never know what's going to happen. I mean, I can get hit by a bus tomorrow. And because of that, I think it helps me approach my day and just be, number one, grateful and also be appreciative of what we have.
Well, first and foremost, I'm sorry you went through that. That's a scary deal. But secondly, you touched on something that is a reoccurring theme with my guests here, and that's having gratitude. And as I mentioned, the talk I gave at Andy Collins' Armadillo Racing Convention this weekend, I mentioned that, and I'll tell you that gratitude is so important because what I've learned from talking to you now, you just added to the layers here of this wonderful fabric that I've created at Cars Yeah, is that when we are grateful, it is impossible to be upset about anything. And just try it sometime. I ask the listeners out there all the time, I say this, if you're unhappy with something, stop and think about what you're grateful for, and you'll forget about what you're unhappy about. Because you can't be mad when you're grateful. You just can't. Your brain won't even allow it. So I think in a way you learned a little secret sauce to life there, don't you think?
Absolutely. I mean, just the act of being grateful tweaks your perspective about so many things, and something that was annoying to you, it still might be a little annoying, but it just takes the edge off of it enough for you to understand that, hey, you know what? It's not that bad. I mean, I was able to wake up today in a warm home. My dog sleeping on the floor next to me, and life is great. So.
And my dad used to say that. He'd say, every morning I wake up, I'm grateful that I'm 6 feet above the ground instead of 6 feet under the ground. And it's a great way to start your day. I was thinking of that this morning. I even posted on my Facebook page. I'm looking outside and a little frustrated with this snow that you and I are dealing with, because we don't deal with snow very well up here in the Pacific Northwest because we're not used to it. We have a lot. I think this is the most I've seen in 25 years of living here. And I started, for some reason, what struck my mind was the Battle of the Bulge during World War II. I don't know how I made that leap, but I thought, man, those guys that fought in those deplorably cold conditions, I'm not going to complain at all about the snow. I got it made. Like you, I woke up in a warm house this morning, although our power did go out for a while yesterday, but I have a generator. So, yeah, it's about having an attitude of gratitude. It's so important, and it'll get you through anything. Thanks for sharing that. I'm glad you're okay. Yeah, the cars can always be replaced, but I understand. I would hate to get hit in my old Porsche as well. No. Not a lot of protection there. Yeah.
Yeah. And you also mentioned being, above ground. I have a good friend of mine, Ron, has always, his mantra is, every day above ground is a great day. And that's another. For sure.
Yeah.
So that made me laugh.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Good way to think of it. So every morning when you wake up, just lay in bed and just think of 3 things you're grateful for. They could be very minor, silly little commonplace things, but the fact that you have fresh drinking water, 2/3 of the world doesn't. So you know what? We got it made. Yeah. Let's have a little bit of fun and talk about your first really special vehicle. You've had a few cool cars you alluded to earlier, but is there a first one that you got that you went, finally got the car I want?
Yeah, I think I would have to say that it would be the first air-cooled Porsche I purchased and had. It had always been a dream of mine to have one, and I finally had a job where I could afford to buy one. And at the time, I was actually looking to pull the trigger on a 993 C4S. It was a Guards Red with sport seats, and actually I had come to terms with the seller, and at the very last second, he changed his mind and decided he didn't want to sell his car, which I totally understand. But I was kind of disappointed about that. And lo and behold, I happened to discover that Porsche made a wide body, basically effectively the predecessor to the 993 C4S in a 964 variant. And it was so 1994, they made a 1 year only C4 wide body. So all the C4s in 94 were wide bodies. And at the time, I didn't understand or know that it was how rare it was. And I happened to find one in Florida. It was a Grand Prix white with 3.6 turbo Speedline wheels, and so I just remember getting that car, and it was the first Porsche I'd ever had. And actually, I bought it sight unseen. I got a PPI on it, and so the first time I got behind the wheel, if you've never been in an air-cooled Porsche, there's nothing like it in regards to the feel, the smell. It smells like a little bit of oil and gas, and the sound of the engine. So anyway, driving that car was incredible, and it just totally validated my experience. And I had a friend from the Bay Area visit me one day, and we took he had never been in one either. So I said, hey, I threw him the keys and said, let's go for a drive. And less than a minute into that drive, he turned to me with, a smile from ear to ear, and he said, Jim, I get it. And I think to me, that's just kind of sums up the 911 air-cooled experience there. So,
wow, that's a very rare car. But again, Jim, I think you and I are brothers from another mother here, because I had a 98 C4S as a daily driver for a while. Mm-hmm. I love that car. It's one of those, well, most of my cars I wish I hadn't sold, but it's another one I wish I hadn't let go. But it was a great car. It just wasn't very fun for commuting, because at the time I had to deal with the Narrows Bridge here when there was just one bridge, and I was in traffic every morning, every night. It was just not very comfortable car to commute in. So I let it go and ended up buying an E46 M3, which I've been really delighted with those cars ever since. But I always think back to that car. How about seller's remorse? Since I'm talking about seller's remorse here of some of mine, I want to share the pain here. So I want to hear what your seller's remorse story is. Is there one car? I know there's probably a lot, but is there one that really stands out?
Yeah, there's a lot of automotive pain in my life. Like I said, I've had 4, but if there's one I had to pick, I've had a 993 as well, and that was a fantastic car. But if there's one I had to pick, I think for driving experience, but also just for nostalgic reasons, I had a 1980 SC. I bought it from my friend Craig. He wasn't a friend at the time. He was just a total stranger off the internet. And it was his father's car that he was selling. I flew down to San Francisco, and I met Craig, and we talked cars for what seemed like ever. And just like he said, that phrase, a brother from another mother. We totally, it was as if we had known each other forever. So that car, because, number one, it's an SC. It has the 3.0 engine. It's just a really robust engine. It only has about 180, maybe 185 horsepower. But, I think I love being able to drive a slow car fast, I guess.
Yes.
And rather than, and so that's very enjoyable. You can have fun driving that car at 35 miles an hour. And so in addition to the driving experience, there was the connection that I had with Craig, who encouraged me to visit Monterey Car Week, which I had heard about, but never really had any inclination to go. And it was because of Craig's urging that Mauricio and I went 9 years ago, I believe now. This August would be 9 years. And it was the first time we went down there. And that was basically the beginning of our, I think, Porsche adventure. So, and what inspired us to start Three Pedal Posse, honestly. So
very cool. Very cool. I have a good friend, regular listener here in the Pacific Northwest, Bill, Dr. Bill, as I call him, or the Docster. And he's a Porsche guy, has some cool Porsches. He has an SC that is really cool. It's a paint to sample metallic green. You park that next to my metallic orange 87 Turbo, and they just look like two little jelly beans in a jar. They look so cool together. But he's let me drive that car a few times. I want that car. I love that motor. I love that car. You're right. It's not super fast, but everything feels right in the SCs. Oh, yeah. And they're bulletproof cars too. They really, really hold up well.
They are. They have a lot of low end torque. And this one was unique because it had an aftermarket, after the fact, it had steel turbo flares added to it. Because like Sir Mix-a-Lot, I like big butts, and so I like wide.
Another Pacific Northwest guy.
Yeah. I've met him a few times too. Anthony's a nice guy. Anyway, I like wide bodies, and so this one was really unique. I added a ducktail to it, and that car has kind of had its internet fame and has been handed down a couple times since, and so now it's back in the Bay Area. So.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Well, you alluded here, you mentioned Three Pedal Posse. I'd love for you to share with our listeners a little more about what it is, why you and Mauricio and your group put this thing together, kind of your sidepreneur project a little bit, if you will. What has you excited about Three Pedal Posse?
Oh, thanks for asking. I think it's, Mauricio and I are partners in this. It's kind of a passion project of ours. And it all started because of our first year experience at Monterey Car Week and meeting all of these amazing people and seeing all these cars and going on drives. Even though there's an emphasis on Porsches, it's not exclusively Porsche. And I think, one of the edicts is that we want to be inclusive rather than exclusive. So we're trying to build a car community of like-minded enthusiasts that like to drive, especially like to blow their own gears. I mean, I think the manual is a dying breed, as we know.
Yes.
And so there's something extra special about being able to roll your own gears. And when you get it right, especially in a 911, an air-cooled 911, there's nothing like it. So, so I think that's something that we started. So we wanted to create a community. Our only rule is no a-holes. So I think that's.
I think Mauricio had said that too when he talked. Yeah, people that are passionate, that are kind and nice, and fit in with the group.
Yeah, absolutely. So as long as we build I think we've been able to build a really great community. So in addition to organizing drives, we build cars. So, Mauricio is in the process of building a 68 912. He's converting to a kind of a TR inspired, with a flat six engine in it. We've got a 356 lined up, after that, and a 73 RSR tribute car. And then we have a lot of other big surprises. I think, we just completed our first year. This was kind of started off as a little, like you said, a side project hobby. And we've been really amazed at the support and response we've received. And so we have some other big things, in line, some initiatives that we want to roll out this year as well. So hopefully if you folks don't know about us, follow us on Instagram. It's just Three Pedal Posse with the number 3. Everything about us and details on drives, et cetera, you can find there. So
very cool. I'll make sure I put a link to that on Jim's show notes page on the Cars Yeah website. So Jim, up next is the last lap. Before we put the pedal to the metal, let's say thank you to today's Cars Yeah sponsors. Hey, Cars Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Covercraft. I've protected my vehicles with their products for decades. Want to keep your vehicle's interior looking new? It's easy with Covercraft seat covers. They'll protect your seats from the daily abuse of pets, children, weekend adventures, and even those everyday spills. It's a fast, easy, and inexpensive way to keep your vehicle looking new. All Covercraft seat covers are easy on, easy off design that are machine washable. You can choose from many fabric options, colors, and accessories, all designed and carefully sewn for your special vehicles. Their seat gloves are semi-custom fit for cars and trucks, And their Seat Savers, a favorite of mine, are custom tailored to fit your seats like a glove. Work truck seat covers are tough, durable denim weight fabric. It's like putting a pair of rugged jeans on your truck's seats. Want to stay warm? Covercraft also offers seat heaters. Covercraft is the right choice. Learn more today at covercraft.com and tell them Mark at Cars Yeah sent you. That's covercraft.com. Are you looking for a way to get your products or services into the ears of thousands of automotive enthusiasts around the globe? I can help. This is Mark Green here at Cars Yeah, and I'd be honored to be an influencer and ambassador for your brand in a unique and personal way. 5 days a week, thousands of subscribers and listeners enjoy the Cars Yeah podcast and website. Contact me today and I'll show you how at mark@carsyeah.com or connect with me through the Cars Yeah website at carsyeah.com. Hey, Mark Green here from the Cars Yeah podcast. Did you know you can now see me on the Cars Yeah TV show? That's right. Cars Yeah is now on MAV TV. I visit some of the past Cars Yeah guests and take you along for the ride. Go to mavtv.com to learn more where you can enjoy Cars Yeah TV. MAV TV is also available on DirecTV, Fubo TV, Fios by Verizon, or you can stream it through mavtv.com online. And they said I only had a face for podcasting. All right, we are back, and I have a very introspective question for you, Jim. If you woke up tomorrow and you were manifested into a car, you were actually a car parked out in the garage, what would Jim be and why?
That's a good and interesting question, Mark. I don't think there's any surprise that I would definitely be a 911. I think there's a reason why I love them, why I drive them, and to me, I think they reflect who I am and who I want to be, I guess, which is something that's a car that's versatile, athletic, it's classic, it's timeless, and it's fun.
Yeah.
You know, these 911s are just amazing machines that are engineered really well, and the thought behind them and the spirit behind them, I think, just really resonates with me and obviously with a lot of other people out there.
Yeah, they're incredible. I was very fortunate because last week I was at Bruce Canepa's shop in Scotts Valley. Canepa does some incredible work on all sorts of cars, but he's kind of known as a Porsche guy too. And the number of Porsches that were there was just incredible. And the level of quality that they do down there, their work is over the top and insane. And there was a car there that he was rebuilding for Jerry Seinfeld. That was a car that I'd never even seen before. It was a very unique car, but he has his 959 SCs down there, which are pretty cool. I mean, the ultimate 911 as far as an old air-cooled car. And so, yeah, 911s are very special for sure. And if any of you listeners out there maybe don't think you're into those, go find a buddy who'll let you drive his. And I think you, like Jim's friend, will have a smile from ear to ear.
You got to try it.
Sure.
You got to try it if you can. So that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Jim, we are entering the last lap. I'm going to fire off a series of questions and ask you to give our listeners some very quick blips of that 911 throttle. So here we go. What's the best automotive advice you've ever received?
I would say if you're in the market to buy a car, regardless of the car, I really believe that if you get to know the seller, it will tell you a lot about what you might be buying. And what I mean by that is if the seller is diligent in regards to maintenance records, if they can demonstrate that they're kind and caring in personality, that means that it's reflected in how they purchase their car and how they maintain their car. If you meet someone that comes across as really not giving a hoot about themselves or other people, more than likely they didn't make good a
they
wise
give a hoot about
decision.
their car.
Yeah. So know the seller, and I think you can buy well.
It's great. Great advice. I've become friends with many people I've sold cars to. In fact, usually most of my friends want to buy my cars because they know I'm just a nutcase when it comes to taking care of them. But when I moved up here to the Pacific Northwest 25 years ago, I sold a car not too long, maybe 2-3 years later, and I'm still friends with Ed, who bought my 964 from me. It's a great way to meet new people too, which is very cool. I'm not necessarily friends with everybody I've purchased or bought cars from, but we still stay in touch, mostly through the internet, and it's a fantastic way to, grow your community. So, yeah, for sure. Would you share one of your personal habits you believe has contributed to your many successes over the years?
I think I'll circle back to that notion of being grateful. You know, like you said, wake up every day and do it at night before you go to sleep. Think of a couple things that you're grateful for, and the practice of doing that, it does make a difference. It sounds hokey, but mentally, we need to walk through that exercise in order to reinforce that notion and live it.
It works. It really does work. Just give it a try for a week. See if you notice a difference. How about a resource? Is there one that you'd like to share with our listeners?
I don't have one specific, but I do recommend that, everyone that's listening here is a car enthusiast. And if you are not a member of a car forum, I go out and become one, because there is a forum out there for every make, model, and generation. And there is a wealth of knowledge in these forums. In addition to that, you just get to meet some amazing people. So whether you're looking for tech support or buying advice or just want to participate in the community, go out there and reach out, whether it be through the internet or, on a website or, through Instagram or Facebook. Go, be active in your community.
Yeah, absolutely. If I could arrange for you to have a drink with anyone in the automotive industry, living or deceased, who would it be?
I would like to have a beer with Chris Harris, who's currently on Top Gear. To me, I've been a fan of his for many years. And so not only is he a Porsche guy, but I think he represents what an ideal car enthusiast is. He's very authentic. He loves to drive. And there's just no veneer to who he is as a person and as a personality. So and on top of that, I think he would just have some incredible and funny stories to tell.
Oh, no doubt. I would love to have him as a guest here on the show. Any of those listeners out there know Chris?
Yeah.
Have him reach out to me. I'm trying. He's a hard guy to reach, I'll tell you. But I'm going to keep trying. Yeah, he's in one of my top 10. Of course, Jay Leno's at the top. I'm going to get Jay on here one of these days. But
I'm sure you will.
Some of these celebrities take a little extra effort. They're busy people. How about a book? Is there a book you'd like to share with our listeners?
So a book that has had an impact on me and resonated with me is a book by Mark Manson. He's a famous blogger, and he recently published a book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Bleep. And and I like Mark because, number one, he's irreverent. He's very genuine and authentic, and I think he has some good insights and advice about how to approach life and have a good worldview about things, because it's a little bit alternative to what you would normally see or read, and it's not sugar-coated at all. And I think it's a fantastic way to look at yourself and the relationships that you have, whether it be personal or professional, in a different way, but also put yourself in a position where, number one, you take care of yourself, and number two, one of the things he advocates is, and it's a phrase that we use in tech a lot, which is minimize the noise and identify the signal, because I think too many people, when you're unhappy or dissatisfied with life, you're just allowing too much noise into your life.
Yes, I think you're right. I'll have to get my hands on that book. I've not read it before, but sounds like a good book to read for sure. Well, I'll remind our listeners, you can get all these great resources that Jim has shared on his Cars Yeah show notes page. Just go to carsyeah.com, type in Jim Krouskop, Krouskop, curly-haired guy, and that page will pop right up. I like that. The curly-haired guy with no hair. Yeah, no curly hair. That's cool.
No curly hair.
I love it. Great name. All right, we're up to the checkered flag here, Jim. This is where it gets a little fun. I'm going to buy you any cool collector car on the planet today. Doesn't matter where it is, who owns it. I'm parking it in your garage. But there's a couple rules to this game to make it a little more challenging. One is it's the only collector car you can have, so choose wisely. Second, you have to drive it. No garage queens allowed here at Cars Yeah. And third, you can't sell it to buy a bunch of other cars with, so that little trick is off the table. What can I buy you today?
This is my favorite question of yours, Mark.
Good.
I love fantasy shopping.
Me too.
Number one car would absolutely, without a doubt, be the 300 SL Goldwing. To me, that is the epitome of a vintage classic sports car. At the time, it was considered the fastest car in the world. And just aesthetically, it's one of the most beautiful cars in the world, in my opinion. And just the engineering that went into it at the time. I've never been able to drive one, so in this fantasy world, this would be my opportunity to own one and drive one, and I would drive the snot out of it.
Oh, I'm happy to hear that. Those are absolutely awesome cars. There was a couple of those down at Bruce Canopa's shop they were doing some work on. I have had the pleasure of driving one of those, and I think when you finally do get to drive one, Jim, you'll find it's a pretty incredible car considering the age. It drives like a tank. It is so solid, and it drives like a car that is not as old as it is. Because those cars were late 50s, early 60s, and you think about most other cars from that time, pretty fragile, pretty tinny. I mean, this thing is like a brick. It's just awesome. Yeah.
So if any one of your generous listeners would give me throw me the keys one of these days, I'd be more than happy to.
There you go. I'll see what I can do. I know there's a guy named John Shirley up in Seattle has got two.
Oh, there you go. John.
He's got a going. Yeah, John, he's got a going and he's got a Roadster. Lucky guy. No doubt well earned with all his hard work. But
absolutely.
Yeah, there's some beautiful ones up here in the Pacific Northwest. Very nice. I'll get to work on that for you. But I can't deliver today because as I look out my window, here comes the snow again. We're getting even more. So, yeah, oh well. We're trapped in our warm, cozy houses. No problem with that. Well, what's the best way for our listeners to learn more about you and 3 Pedal Posse and 360 Sonar?
Again, the best way is through our Instagram page. It's 3 Pedal Posse with the number 3. We also have a website at 3pedalposse.com. And everything you want to know about us or how to reach us can be through those 2 channels. We are going to be launching a YouTube channel as well with some exclusive content from our events and other things. So we're just kind of starting to ramp that up this year. But our Instagram page is our best way to reach us.
Very cool. Very cool. And 360 Sonar, is that 360sonar.com?
Correct. Yeah. So if you're looking for talent, especially in the tech industry, we can definitely help there as well. But we're here to mostly promote the 3PP culture and community.
Cool. Awesome. Well, listeners, again, you can find all these links on Jim's show notes page on the Cars Yeah website. Just type Jim in that search bar or his last name again, Krouskop. Krouskop. I'm getting better at saying that, aren't I?
Oh, yeah, you're doing really good. It has that little guttural.
Your dad would be proud of me. Jim, thanks for being so generous today with your time and expertise and for sharing your experiences with me and the listeners. Stay warm up here in the snow until things start to thaw later this week. Until you and I talk again, I'll see you down the road.
Thank you so much, Mark. I really appreciate it. You have an amazing show, and I think that what I like about it is the meaningful, inspirational aspects to it. So thank you so much for having me on.
You're welcome. Couldn't do it without the great guests here on Cars Yeah. You take care of your cars, but who takes care of your investments? Tune-ups aren't just for engines. Updating your financial plan is important too. Your GPS may take you from A to B, but it won't help you on the road to financial freedom. For that, you need a good co-pilot and a very trusted advisor. Chris Kimball, CFP, is just the man for the job. He'll guide you down that road without driving you crazy. For over 25 years, Chris has helped people just like you and me with their financial planning and investments. With a master's degree in financial services, he is eminently qualified, and he's a car guy too. Learn more at chrisvkimball.com or call 866-ON-A-PLAN. Securities through Money Concepts Capital Corp. Member FINRA SIPC. CK Financial Services is not affiliated with Money Concepts Capital Corp.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.